Noswaith Thar, and a very good evening from North Wales. Welcome to a sun-kissed racecourse ground as Wrexham prepare to face up to Birmingham City. We've seen pretty much every type of weather in this territory in the last 24 hours. If you were watching the women's live stream from the Rock last night, things couldn't be more different this evening. Bright sunshine is covering the stadium here as Birmingham City once more head north for what will be the fifth meeting between these two sides in the past 3 seasons. Delighted again this evening to welcome back Mark Howard and Mia Roberts to Matchday Live. Good evening to you both. Thank you for bringing the sunshine to us from Preston. Mark, that was very kind of you to bring that on the way. Mia, have you managed to get yourself dry after the Rock last night?
Just about, honestly. Unbelievable. I mean, the difference is Welsh weather for you, isn't it? Welsh weather.
Absolutely. What a difference 24 hours can make. And Birmingham City this evening represent Wrexham's third opportunity of the season to notch up their first win. 2 draws in the opening 2 games between the Wrexham and their opposition tonight. They sit next to each other in mid-table, both of them looking for that first victory of the campaign. And if we have a little look on screen, a reminder of how the games between these sides have played out since Wrexham returned to the EFL in 2023, because Phil Parkinson's side is still looking for their first win. 2 draws and 2 defeats have been registered. Could this be the night when Wrexham change that statistic? Mark, did you see enough on Saturday to give you confidence that Wrexham can win this one this evening?
Yeah, 100%. I think that the way that they finished the game as well gives them something to aim for tonight to start like that. I think that Kiefer starting again tonight, we all know what he can offer. He's obviously a huge threat for this team, and with the new signings as well, I think they'll be buoyed tonight. I think that there's a lot to play for, and like you said, I think we owe them one.
As Mark says, Kiefer Moore starts tonight for Wrexham. We'll go through the Wrexham team in just a moment, but before we do, we want to just make you aware on Matchday Live of a competition currently running all around the new wonderful third shirt, which was launched this week. If you have a look at the QR code on screen now, then you'll be able to follow the link it gives you and place your vote as to which aspect of the new third shirt you like the most. And that gives you the chance to enter a draw to win a signed Wrexham shirt. So make sure you follow the QR code, go online, cast your vote as to which aspect of the new third shirt you like the best, and you might win him the signed Wrexham shirt. Thank you very much, Mark and Mia, for demonstrating the shirt on screen. Let's have a look at the Wrexham team for this evening then, because one change from Phil Parkinson from the side, who drew 1-1 with Watford on Saturday. And that's an immediate start for Jacques Ikomier at left wing back. Recruited on Wednesday from Angers, the Gabonese international is straight into the starting lineup. George Thomason, we know, suffering that thigh injury. It's going to keep him out for 10 weeks. So Ikomier is straight into the starting 11. Issa Kabore, also returning to the club this week, is on the bench, as is Josh Windass. Great to see him in his squad for the first time this season. Davis Keeler-Dunn and George Dobson making their excuses from the bench to allow these two to have their opportunity. Kabore and Windass then on the bench this evening. Mia, what do you make of that selection with Ikomier's first start?
Yeah, I think that was the first name you were looking for, to see if he was in from the start or in off the bench. I think, earlier in the week, if you asked me, it would have been Windass's name that I would have been looking for first. But obviously, since that announcement came, Ikome, I think it's so exciting to see him in there from the off. I think maybe a few people thought he might go a little bit more safe with a Ryan Longman, someone who knows the system. There's no doubts that the new boy's going to be fit, because he played 90 minutes on Sunday for Angers. But does he know the system? Can he settle in that quickly? That's a question he's going to have to answer himself. But super excited to see him in, and obviously also Josh Windass back on the bench, where hopefully he can make an impact off tonight.
Mark, we're going to spend some time in a few minutes looking in a bit more detail at Issa Kabore and new man Jacques Ikomier. But just as a principle, how difficult is it for a player, particularly to arrive in a new country on the Wednesday and then be starting in a match in front of the TV cameras against Birmingham 2 days later?
It will be difficult, but as a player, it's probably something that you want to do. You want to get your first start as soon as possible. The longer it goes on and gets delayed, the harder it actually becomes. So I'm sure he'll be looking forward to tonight, and I'm hoping that we see some real quality, especially in the wide areas and crossing. I think the game that we watched last week, I think that was what we were lacking. And obviously we know that Thomason was filling in really, and he's so versatile. He's going to be a big miss for Wrexham, but Ikomier coming in should be really good tonight, and I'm hopeful for him. I think it's a beautiful evening here, and I think that everything should lend itself to a good performance from him.
And goals haven't been easy to come by in the first 3 games. 2 scored in the opening 3 matches, Mark. But Josh Windass's return, last year's leading scorer, surely will give a lift to that squad and perhaps inject a little bit more belief in the dressing room tonight, perhaps?
Yeah, exactly that. I was just saying that off air to Mike Williamson then, that he's been a big miss, especially for Kiefer, and picking up the second balls. And Wrexham have had to change their style of play slightly. They couldn't play as direct, and I'm sure that when Dean Windass hopefully does come on tonight, we'll see them mix up their play, go a bit more direct into Kiefer, and let Josh pick up those second balls and get things going, get Wrexham more on the front foot. So a huge player for Wrexham.
Amir, we saw the statistics at the start of the show about the difficulties Wrexham have had in beating Birmingham. Do you think that will be known in the dressing room? Is it something the players are likely to talk about, or is it something that's less relevant, particularly for the new faces who've come in?
Yeah, I don't think it's too relevant. Obviously, like we say, there's a few new boys in there, and most of that squad have probably only played them twice the last season, weren't with us in the League One days. But it is something that, as fans, it certainly gets looked at, and obviously the whole sort of narrative that gets built up around this sort of Hollywood derby, that's going to be brought up a lot. So I'm sure it's something Phil Parkinson will be wanting to squash and get 3 points tonight against the Birmingham City side, who aren't exactly flying either. So both teams still looking for their opening win in the Championship, so it should be a cracker.
Birmingham had a chastening defeat in midweek, Mark, 6-1 to Brentford in the Carabao Cup, but they made 6 changes that night, very much gone back tonight to the team who drew with Bristol City their last time out in the Championship. Just one alteration. Damari Gray, who scored in midweek, comes in, likely to mean Adam Stansfield moves to the number 10 role. What do you make of this Birmingham City side in terms of threat?
Oh, they've always been a threat, and they're always difficult to beat, hence the results. I'll tell you one thing, Mia, Steve Parkin will be reminding those players. He will 100% be telling them that we owe them one, that they haven't got a win over them in the last 4. So that's one thing. But yeah, the Birmingham team, they've signed some really experienced key players as well, Championship proven, and then they've got goals in their team. We've always known that about them. I think that they'll be looking tonight after 2 draws themselves to make amends and get their season up and running, but it's always going to be a difficult game, this. I think that because it's billed obviously as the Hollywood game with the two celebrity fan base owners, I think it's always going to be a tough game. There's always going to be that bitter rivalry between these two clubs, which will always make it even harder on the pitch.
Well, we'll have a look at Jacques Ecomier in a few minutes' time, but let's have a look at the first of this week's new signings, Issa Kabore, in a little bit more profile now, because of course he was a player that the Wrexham fans grew to love last season during his loan spell from Manchester City. He returns this week as a permanent acquisition, as you can see on screen, 8 assists from his 32 appearances last year. And Mark, this is a guy that you've seen quite a lot of in the summer. Tell us more.
Yeah, exactly that. So I've been training at the City group, Manchester City's training group, and they have this whole loans department. I think when I started 7 weeks ago, it's 31 players, and gradually it's whittled down to the last 8 players, and Issa's been part of that group, and he's been lovely. Obviously I didn't play with him while he was at Wrexham, but it's been lovely to get to know him in the dressing room and what he's like, and he's a real family man. I didn't know that about him, and we've had good chats about his children and stuff like that. So to get to know the player that I know and I've watched plenty of times on the pitch, to get to know him personally was really nice. So he's looked really sharp, by the way. I still wish he'd wear a pair of studs every now and then, but he's so fast, he's so sharp, and his work ethic and training, tell you what, he's top. He's also a leader. I didn't know that about him. He would often hold some of the meetings. He'd speak well in the group. So yeah, a really important signing for Wrexham.
And Mia really giving Wrexham depth now at right wing back. Danny Imre has started so positively. We discussed him a lot on Saturday with his goal against Watford and his all-round performance. But now Phil Parkinson has real quality options on the right, and Ryan Longman as well.
He absolutely does, and I think Phil touched on it as well, that obviously Ryan Longman and Issa can both go on that left-hand side as well. So that's what you need at this point. I think we've been looking across our squad over the past few weeks, and that's the difference, I think, between us and maybe those top sides, looking at those sort of automatic positions in terms of that depth. And when we're making changes off the bench, can we still have that quality coming on? And is there, can we reduce that drop off and just make it so we've still got so much quality? And Issa absolutely has that. And I think it'll be an interesting challenge for him actually coming in now, not necessarily straight into that starting 11. Last season he had that, he was that main man in that position. Whereas this year he's got Danny Imre, who started so well, only in these obviously first few games, but he's got certainly a challenge on his hands to actually break into that first 11. But now that's something he can call this place his home. I think he's had 7 loan spells in the past few years, so that should be a massive advantage for him. I see only positives with that signing. I'm really excited to see him back in red.
So Issa Kabore, the first wing-back unveiled on Wing-Back Wednesday, but it didn't take very long for another to come through the door. Jacques Ecomier, arriving from Angers, Gabonese international left wing-back, who's got the pedigree from France in the Ligue 1 experience, with playing almost every game for Angers last season, and with George Thomason having picked up that long-term thigh injury, Mark, on Saturday. Couldn't be better timing for Phil Parkinson to strengthen with another player with a very strong pedigree.
Yeah, exactly that. This must be something that was in the pipeline already. I'm sure the scout reports were in, and like you said, Angers and Bordeaux, he's hugely experienced for such a young player. And like I said, it's nice to see an out-and-out wing-back in that position. And I'm excited to see him play tonight. I'm sure that he's going to be full of energy, enthusiasm as well, and desperate to impress.
He picks up the number 3 shirt, vacated by Lewis Brunt, so very much the number you'd expect to see with someone operating at left back or left wing back. Amir, his first objective really this season will be to improve on the crossing that Phil Parkinson felt wasn't quite up to the mark on Saturday. It'll be an immediate chance for the fans to see tonight what he delivers in that area.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend I've watched too many Angers football matches.
Even you?
I know.
You haven't been watching your Angers VTs.
But I've watched a few clips of him, and I think immediately you obviously look at the stats and those goals and assists, and I don't think he's actually scored a goal in senior football since 2022 or something like that. But people can immediately go, oh, I'm not sure about him on an attacking basis. But if you actually look into where he was playing last season, he was in a back 4, so that immediately restricts his attacking potential. And what he'll get tonight, and he'll get a first taste of it anyway, is that freedom that you get on being that left wing back. And I'm super excited to see it. It does look like, from some of the clips I've seen, he's got that ability to make those reverse passes and break those lines. So really excited to see that. And you know what, if he is more defensive, I don't see an issue with that either. You've got someone like Callum Doyle next to him. Does that allow Callum Doyle to get forward a bit more, and maybe Ecomier slots in and becomes more defensive, and then a midfielder goes? I think it opens up another maybe dynamic if that's the case.
Well, we look forward tonight to seeing how Ecomier settles at left wing back and how many minutes he manages to get through, of course. Well, on Saturday it was an afternoon of some frustration here for Wrexham against Watford. A second consecutive draw to kick off the new Championship season. Let's have a reminder of some of the key moments from that game.
Side him, but anyway, here's Traore. That's a good ball. Kieran scores. Great header out of nothing. Traore with a lovely cross at the edge of the 6-yard box. Kieran got it to the near post first. Excellent downward header across Patterson, who had no chance. And Watford, against the run of play, have taken the lead and maintained their terrific start to the season.
It's a really good goal from a Watford point of view.
He needs to get there, Zamora, and playing O'Brien now. 3 against 3. Works it to Moore, left channel. He's forced wide by his first touch, pulls it back. Poor touch by Cipriano, and it's hit by Imre! Danny Imre's first goal for Wrexham. Poor defending by Cipriano, who should have dealt with it, but he teed it up perfectly, and Imre, standing on a penalty spot, went for power. He's body checked, ref plays advantage, and there's Imre now, right side of the box. 2 against 2 in the middle. He pulls it back into the defender. Caban intercepts when the keeper had called for it, and it's a corner. Again, just not finding Wrexham players with the crosses, but at least with a set piece.
No, and again, really good breakaway. Keeper Moore does so well to just hold on to it and then release it. And then he ends up going down. And you're just thinking, Danny Imre, can you get that ball right? Nathan Broadhead was steaming away at that back post.
By Whiteman again, and Broadhead tees up Rathbone, who helps it wide. Imre back to Rathbone, corner of the box, digs across to the far post. Thomason is there, and he gets too much on it and hooks it back across the face for a throw. He was right in the goal.
All square then on Saturday against Watford. Wrexham picking up their second consecutive point of the season, and delighted to be joined now by manager Phil Parkinson, keen to try and go one better this evening with a win. Phil, one change in your starting 11 this evening, but a really significant one, the arrival of Jacques Ikomier in midweek. How's Jacques settled in, and what are your thoughts ahead of the game?
Yeah, Jack's settled in well. Obviously, busy day for him Tuesday. Wednesday joined in some of the training. Yesterday did a bit more, but obviously with Kakachi, Tomo and Seb Revan out in wing-back position, we put him straight in there tonight.
When you go about making a signing like Jacques Ikomier, Phil, what sort of process does the club follow to identify him as a talent?
Well, obviously I'd seen him live last year, so I kind of caught my eye when I went over to France, and then Chris Johnson's been over to France quite a bit the second part of the season. He's a player who caught our eye, and then obviously all the staff review his stuff on the software system we've got. We get all the players' physical data from every league to make sure that his physical data matches up with the players in that position we've got already. And just kind of review the top games in the division he's been playing in against some really good players, and just kind of then it's a judgment call really on is he the right player for us, and then obviously negotiations then take place to try and get the deal done.
I know you always talk about integrating players into the group, Phil. How do you do that in the space of 48 hours, particularly when he's in a new country?
Yeah, I think, first of all, not too much information, because you can have information overload when you've come to a new club and you just come over. So yeah, of course, I'd done a presentation to Jax last week about how the team play and the players we've got and how we saw him fitting in. So we'd already had that insight. And then yesterday we did we had a practice game against the youngsters to get him a feel for the players around him. But obviously it's only a very small block of that, because in terms of energy for tonight's game.
Where have your areas of focus been in training this week, Phil?
Yeah, I think with us, when you look back at the performance, there was a lot. We weren't far off against Watford. I felt, like I spoke about the other day, that second half I thought we had 2, 3, 4 careless passes, and we need to eradicate that and just make sure that we don't back a slack pass off with another one, and obviously we spoke about the crossing, being better, but when you look at the game back and it's kind of the emotion goes out of it, really it was a game we had a lot of control in.
Birmingham made a lot of changes for their midweek Carabao Cup tie, very much gone back to the side that played last time out in the Championship tonight. What sort of starter player are you expecting from Chris Davis?
Yeah, interesting really, because towards the end of last season they went very direct, so they'd gone from a real football team to going into Prisk, and keep its distribution was pretty basic, playing in the opposition half, and they've started the season that way also. So are they going to do the same? I should imagine that the fact that they got a point on the travels to Sheffield United may indicate they will, but obviously we've got to be prepared for everything.
Phil, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Have a good game. Phil Parkinson, Wrexham manager, giving us his thoughts ahead of this evening's battle with Birmingham City, a team he hasn't beaten yet in his time as Wrexham manager. In fact, the last 4 occasions that these teams have met at the racecourse, going right back to 1979, have all finished 1-1. So that's perhaps the nap tonight, if you're interested in having a small flutter on the game. Phil talking about Jacques Secomier there, Mia. I thought it was interesting, the process of him visiting and seeing Jacques in action in France, Chris Johnson making those trips as well. This is kind of new territory for Wrexham, isn't it? Because many clubs at this level have got many international players who've come in. We look at the Birmingham squad tonight with players from Japan and South Korea, and that's often a fairly common model. But for Wrexham, with the exception of Issa Kabori on loan last year, this is kind of the start of maybe a new phase of mixing top talent from the UK with more of an international mix.
Yeah, and I think it's it's something you have to do as soon as you go higher up in these leagues. You've got to expand your sort of scouting market, and yeah, I think Mark touched on it before about Birmingham. Or Birmingham this season over the summer, bringing in more experience and championship players who know the championship, whereas maybe last season they went away from that a little bit and brought in players from whether it's a Vicente, Priska, or players like this who don't necessarily know it. And I think there is a gamble in that, because you just don't necessarily always know what you're going to get on a day-to-day basis, whether that's in the week training or whatever it may be. So you definitely take that risk, but for Phil, obviously has gone out with, like say, Chris Johnson and watched him play in France, so that's a big positive. And I'm sure they wouldn't have signed the boy if they didn't have full faith in him. And what an opportunity it is for him tonight from the off to do that from minute 1. So I have full faith, and I'm just really excited. As soon as that announcement went out, I was just so excited for Friday night, and now we're here, so let's go.
Now, we know, Mark, that Phil has a certain test that he conducts with any potential new signing, which is an examination of character, shall we say. Now, for a player like Jacques Secomier, how do you think he will have managed to run the same sort of character checks over him when he's largely reliant on video and perhaps the odd trip to France? Because it must put that a bit of a test, I'd have thought. Yeah,
exactly that. It'll be a lot more difficult. I'm sure that Phil's contact book is vast, and he will have people that know people to help him out with that sort of thing. So I'm sure he would have done as much recon as possible. And like you said, now with technology and the footage that you can watch and the clips and Y-Scout and Huddle, and the amount that's available for managers and scouts to watch is so vast that I'm sure Phil's covered every bit of ground that he could. And he wouldn't take this lightly. It's a serious decision, bringing in players from abroad, and I think you will always see Phil sign experienced players through the spine and then dip in now, like you said, with the wider players, Issa Kabore and Kakacho, and now a new player coming into that mix. But yeah, Phil knows what he knows, and he's very clever at what he does.
And Mia, how do you think Secomier will manage not knowing perhaps the running lines of Broadhead, Rathbone, Moore? Okay, he's had a little bit of time with them in training, but the match situation is very different in terms of spotting the runs, the little movements. Difficult, isn't it, to come straight into a starting 11 at this level and immediately feel like you've got that understanding with the players you've got to be linking up with?
Yeah, it's really difficult, and I think that's part of why maybe I was so surprised, very happy to see him starting, but also very surprised because, I thought he might just go with Ryan Longman out there for maybe 60 minutes, 70 odd, and then that's when you chuck him in for, dependent on obviously context of the game. But yeah, I think he's just got to do the basics right, and you grow into things from there. He's got a really good set of group of lads and footballers as well. That's important around him to look after him. Whether that's Callum Doyle, who I'm sure will be constantly talking to him, Lewis O'Brien on that side as well, and then obviously Nathan Broadhead. These guys, they do have the ability to come into a team and play. We might not see it from the off today in terms of those rotations and movements, but that's something that'll come. And yeah, like I say, I'm just really excited to see how he grows into a Wrexham shirt.
So opposition tonight, Birmingham City. If you have missed the team news at the top of the show, one change for each side from their last championship run out. Jacques Secomier coming in for Wrexham for George Thomason, who we know is out for 10 weeks with a thigh problem. We wish George a rapid recovery. As Phil was saying, it does rather leave Wrexham short of options at left wing back, and Jacques Ecomier is the man pushed straight into action tonight. And for Birmingham City, Damari Gray is rewarded for his goal in midweek in their 6-1 thumping by Brentford in the Carabao Cup with a start. Let's have a look in a bit more detail then at Birmingham City tonight, starting with the man in the opposition dugout, Chris Davis, who's had a rather unusual route to being a manager at this level of the game. Davis forced to retire at the tender age of just 19 with an arthritic problem in his foot back in 2004. He then immediately headed off to Loughborough University, one of the world's leading sports institutions, and followed the sports science degree, got himself a first-class honours, and started working at Leicester City as a coach, getting his experience there, then getting in with Swansea as an assistant to Brendan Rodgers, and following Rodgers around various clubs, including Celtic, where he picked up a double treble before getting the #1 opportunity at Birmingham a couple of years ago and powering them to the League One title. Mark, Phil was saying about Chris Davis that Birmingham's philosophy he thought was looking slightly different this season compared to how Davis had played in the past, and his philosophy always traditionally was very much a possession-based game, wasn't it? A big supporter of futsal, someone who really studies opposition tactics. How difficult is it for players if you suddenly ask them to switch significantly a tactical style that goes from one end of the spectrum to the other?
Sometimes it's a big ask, but I think that would have been a building process from even during last year when they knew they couldn't make the playoffs. I think that they would have started to implement a change of style and then building that into pre-season. And you've seen, like we said, with his signing experienced championship players. I'm sure that he's learning on the job, and I think that he's had some really good jobs before he took the Birmingham one. He's learned from successful managers in the past. Brendan Rodgers, I'm sure that he still chews his ear off. So I'm guessing that last year was a big learning curve for himself. He's probably had to look at his style of play and change that. It's not easy as a manager sometimes to admit that, but obviously it's part of your learning, and if you want to be successful, you have to be able to do that.
Amir, you spoke on this show last year when Birmingham were having a bad run about the fact that you thought what was being said on social media, at least by some people, was way off the mark because Davis appeared to be under some pressure, at least from fans, to get better results than he was getting. In the end, Birmingham consolidated, finished comfortably clear of the relegation spots. What do you think he will have learned about the Championship in his first season managing at this level?
Oh, so much, honestly. I just find it a really difficult one to sort of assess, because I look at last season and obviously they came up from a record-breaking League One year, 111 points, just an absolutely absurd team, in regards for League One level, and even obviously Chris Davis first, proper senior role as well, and then coming into the Championship, and maybe similar to us, we're a little bit unsure on expectancy and what necessarily was going to be considered a successful season come May, and then to finish 10th, I think is solid. I think as Wrexham fans we would have been happy with that. I think that was their best finish since 2011-12 in the Championship. So, I sort of look at it as, that's good. I think that's acceptable. But Birmingham City fans, Blues, don't necessarily seem to think that way. I think, maybe I was a little bit surprised over the summer that yes, they had a good finish to last season, like Mark said, but it's part of that because by March they knew they weren't going to be touching those playoffs. Pressure was kind of off. So, half of me was maybe expecting them to actually move on from Chris Davis, and that hasn't happened. But now, we look, they're 4 games in, they've had 2 cup games, 2 league games, and there's quite a lot of unsettledness in that Blues camp, when you look at what fans are saying online and etc., especially after obviously Tuesday night. But I think at the moment, and you touched on it, he's moved away from that original high possession, high intensity, hunting packs, and maybe that's because of recruitment. How much of a hand has he had in that recruitment? Obviously Priska's come in, become that big number 9. That's maybe meant they've hit him maybe a bit more than they should in terms of that sort of hoofball, if you like, and that's changed things. But honestly, I think it's difficult at the moment to sort of pin Birmingham to one identity, and that's not necessarily on Chris Davis. That's just mixed messages, and obviously what's happened at senior level as well, with obviously the health of Tom Wagner as well. But it's a difficult one to sort of say where you'd put Birmingham at the moment. And listen, I think tonight's massive for them, by the way. I think there's a lot of pressure on him again, which, like I say, I don't know if that's fair or unfair. It's really hard to say without a massive amount of Birmingham knowledge behind me. But yeah, it's huge. It's a huge night for them. I think there's more pressure on them tonight than Wrexham for sure.
Yeah, we wish Tom Wagner all the very best with his recovery, as Mia mentions. Let's have a look at one of the key players for Birmingham City tonight, because we're going to pick out Phil Neumann, the German centre-back who was recruited from Bundesliga 2, where he had spent a number of years with Hanover and other sides at that level. He's become a player who has been very solid for Birmingham City in the occasions when Wrexham have squared up to them in recent seasons. And alongside Christopher Clara, Mark, one of the more settled partnerships in the league, and a player who's adapted very well since he's arrived in English football.
Yeah, exactly that. And to be fair, like I was saying earlier, it's so important to have such a settled spine. And I think Birmingham are no different. I think they're built on a defensive base that can then play fluid football. But he's been a fantastic signing for the club. I'm sure that he would like to add a few more goals, especially attacking set pieces. But in terms of the way that they do play, I think he's been a great addition.
Neumann at centre-back tonight then. Kiefer Moore will be trying to get the better of him. He is the selected centre-forward for Wrexham tonight. Sam Smith awaits on the bench. And if you're just joining us, Josh Windass on the bench for the first time this season. Well, back in April, Wrexham headed across to St Andrews for a match towards the start of their run-in to the end of the season. It wasn't a happy afternoon for the Reds. Let's have a reminder about what they've got to put right tonight.
So an in-swinging corner from the right-hand side. Everyone back for Wrexham, everyone up for Birmingham. I'd have Beadle on the halfway line rather than the edges area where he is. It's swept in and Priska heads towards goal. Birmingham just moving it around, trying to probe. Big diag now from Iwata, not a bad idea. Well, one in the air by Wagner and volleyed just over. It was a decent contact by Osman. Will battle with Neumann. Centre-back wins it again. Matty James unlucky, he seemed to bring it down well, but he's dispossessed, and an instant ball by Stansfield is a great idea. Osman, left-hand side, hits the goal line, Cleworth comes to him. Osman likes running down the line, feeds it in the goal mouth, ricochets out, and Okonkwo responds. Dobson tracked his runner so well there to get in there to bring it down and find Kabore on the right. Moore's gone beyond him. Kabore, brilliant change of feet and a good ball to the edge. Rathbone has got support, finds Moore. Oh, just off balance, couldn't take it in his stride. Doyle told to shoot, does shoot, puts it high over the bar. And it's knocked over the top, and this is dangerous. Doyle reacts slowly, big chance, huge save by Okonkwo. Vicente one-on-one. After Doyle just didn't seem to realise the Spaniard was after him. Brilliant tackle then. Rather scuffs a nice little pass inside to Iwata and gets away with it. Return by Priska overhit, but Pike keeps the ball moving. Left-hand side, early cross from Wagner, too high, and it's in! That's a hell of a header. It wasn't aiming at Vicente, but he managed to get his head on it, 15 yards out, and Okonkwo diving to his left, couldn't clear it out, and, well, the truth is we barely had the ball. Needs to do something to shift the momentum. Corner swept into the near post, dangerously, it's 2-0. Oh, it's a poor goal to concede. It was played in, carried to the far, and Clara has got a man touch tight on him, but sticks his foot around him. It's a Cleworth and just pops it into an open goal from about 3 yards out. And these are two poor goals that Wrexham have conceded here. They've got to be very frustrated with that.
A difficult afternoon in the Midlands then last April for Wrexham. It was not one of the better performances of the season, but Mia, of course, it led to that famous players-only meeting, didn't it, after that game? Remind us of what happened and what happened as a consequence on the field after that.
Yeah, well, I think you can see from the clips we've seen, I don't think there was a Wrexham highlight in there. You know, reluctant to call them highlights, but yeah, I think that was the sort of trigger really that led to then sort of internal players meeting. I think Josh Windass and Matty James both spoke about it on Welcome to Wrexham, and yeah, that really brought those players a little bit together. And I think, you know, Phil Parkinson and no staff had anything to do with it. It was all internal, just from a player perspective really, where they just gathered all together and basically said, you know, what's going on here? Let's try and get back on the straight and narrow, and you know, they very almost did as well. So yeah, that was one of the worst days probably of last season, but then led to some really good ones as well. So you know, they'll remember that as well, and I'm sure, like Chomp said, you know, those messages from what happened at St Andrews last season, they won't want to anywhere near a repeat of that.
Mark, have you ever been invited to a players-only meeting, either here or at any other club?
I think I've hosted a few.
Have you? Well, tell us about them. Who calls them?
Yeah,
you know,
well, it's just a leadership group at a club. There'll be 4 or 5 players in every team that they call themselves the leadership group. The manager uses them for the experience, their go-to. And yeah, it's one of those that the players sometimes just feel like they need to gain an edge. Sometimes the managers and staff can do too much talking. It's up to the players to take more responsibility. I think that's all you ever see from those sort of meetings is people stand up, they say their bit, and they'll stick up for what they think's right, but sometimes it brings you together more, and I think it did that last year. And I think these meetings go on a lot. They go on a lot more than people think, and they are vitally important. They just iron out the creases.
How short or long are they?
It all depends on who's saying what. I've been in some where they go on for a very long time, hours in fact, but I've been in some where they only go on for 5 minutes because the first thing that might be said might be the most important thing, and that's enough. So yeah, I've been part of them here, even in our promotion years, where as players we came together and made sure that we were on track. And it could have been after one bad result, one bad performance. Sometimes you just, as a group, need to come together and put things right.
And does someone then report back to the manager and say this is what we took out of it, or is it all just what stays on tour goes on tour?
Exactly that. They're players' meetings only for that reason. Some players won't like them, but that's part and parcel. Sometimes things need to be said between the group, and it always stays between that group.
Fascinating. Let's have a little look now then at the teams who have joined Wrexham in the Championship this season. We began this feature, if you were with us on Saturday, looking at the 3 teams who'd come up from League One, and today we're going to complete this little series by looking at the 3 teams who have come down from the Premier League: West Ham United, Burnley and Wolverhampton Wanderers. So let's have a look at these clubs now in a bit more detail and get Mark and Mia's thoughts on what their chances are this season. We're going to start with West Ham United, arguably the biggest club in the Championship this season, certainly the biggest stadium, playing at what was the Olympic Stadium in London, in Stratford. Wrexham head down there, of course, on Friday the 11th of September. And they are a club whose squad rotation was very much in the media through the summer. Who was going to come, who was going to go? Well, about £170 million or thereabouts has been generated in transfer sales. That man, James Ward-Prowse, on screen, actually left them today to return to his former club, Southampton. They've also spent £28 million in the market as well. Arne Engels from Celtic, their most recent acquisition. But Mia, what have you made of the revolving door at the London Stadium with Nuno Espirito Santo, and how would you rate West Ham's chances this year of going straight back up?
Yeah, well, I think initially they were the one out of the 3 maybe that raised the eyebrows last season. I think maybe a bit of talk was actually taken away from West Ham last year because a lot of people thought Spurs might be them, and maybe the focus was actually on Spurs. And but yeah, for West Ham, listen, absolutely massive club, and a club that deserves to be in the Premier League. I think they were averaging something like 62,000 attendances week in, week out at the London Stadium, so that shows you their size. But yeah, I think for me, before a ball was kicked in the Championship, for me they were number 1. They were first to go straight back up, not easily, but one of the biggest parts of that was the fact Nuno was the manager. I think he's been here, he's done it with Wolves. I think that was one of the best Championship sides we've ever seen, that Wolves. I think it was 2016-17, the likes of Ruben Neves, Diogo Jota, Conor Cody. I think, now translating that to obviously West Ham, you look at the likes of Jared Bowen deciding to stay. To me, that was immediately huge. For your captain to make that sort of a decision, absolutely massive. You then look across the pitch. Listen, I know they've lost players in Somerville and Fernandez, who's gone to Spurs, but that's not a free. That was 145 million in the pocket, by the way. And you've still got the likes of a number of other talented boys, and bringing in Joel Pirro from Leeds on loan, that could become permanent. A really good signing, and they've still got so much quality in that squad. And listen, I know they've not had the best of starts, obviously losing first home game to Charlton on the weekend, but I fully expect that quality to make its way to the forefront, and I'd be very surprised if they're not in those automatics.
Mia mentions losing that game to Charlton at the weekend. Arthur Okonkwo, of course, made his debut that day, Mark, and got man of the match. Did you have a chance to catch up with him afterwards?
I've not spoken to him personally about it. I've seen the highlights, made some really good saves, and we all know what Arthur can do and what the quality that he does offer, especially in his shot-stopping capabilities. So I'm sure that he'll be thrilled to get off the mark with a win and a fantastic performance. But yeah, West Ham's such a tough club. I'm a Tottenham fan, so I was very relieved to have West Ham in the Premier League last year. Definitely saved our bacon. It's such a big club. It's so hard to comprehend that West Ham in the Championship this year, and like Mia said, they're going to be favourites to be knocking on the door for promotion. And as a Wrexham fan as well, you're hoping that they're not. You're hoping that they're one of those teams that do struggle a little bit. But yeah, that stadium, that fan base, they do deserve to be in the top flight.
I guess with them, Mark, whilst the reputation is there and as Mia says the crowd base is there, the one thing they haven't really managed to master with that stadium since moving from Upton Park is that real cauldron, is it? Because Upton Park was such a tough place for teams to go. It was intimidating. You were mentioning to me off air how St Andrews is intimidating if you're playing against Birmingham. But that London stadium can sometimes feel a bit impersonal, a bit of a bowl. And if they have a bad start, you wonder if the fans might turn on them a bit quickly.
Yeah, exactly that. And I've played there before. I played there in a cup, I think it was for Bolton, and it did feel more like a concert feel. The fans were so far away from the pitch, it struggled to create the atmosphere. And there is that disconnection a little bit between the fans and the players on the pitch. There's got to be a way of bringing them a little bit closer, making them feel more part of the action, and it would be better for the players, certainly.
Your tip, Mark? Top two, playoffs, mid-table?
They're going to be knocking on the door. The quality that they do have and the players and the squad that they've kept. The manager as well is a huge factor. Hugely experienced, knows how to bring players in and get them performing. Certainly for me, top three.
Next up, let's have a look at Burnley, one of Wrexham's nearest trips this season to East Lancashire. They have very much been the yo-yo club over the last few seasons, up and down from the Championship to the Premier League, promoted a couple of years ago, as you can see on screen, under Vincent Kompany, who then headed off to great things managerially after that. They've seen Maxime Esteve depart to RB Leipzig and Jadon Anthony to Brentford amongst their departees. A couple of new signings from manager Nicky Hayen, the Belgian who's come in from KRC Genk. A little bit of an unknown quantity perhaps, Burnley this season, Mia, with both manager and player change.
Yeah, I think, listen, they've become known as that sort of yo-yo club, haven't they? I think the last 4 times they've been relegated, 3 of those they've gone straight back up. So, you know, most bookies and, you know, Championship watchers will probably see Burnley coming down and, you know, that's one position sort of knocked off. But I think this is the most uncertain I've sort of been about a Burnley side in the last few years, and part of that is because the manager's unknown. I only knew him because he was working in the Welsh Prem for a little while with Haverfordwest, so that's a bit of a shout for, you know, Welsh Prem
Excellent.
fans.
There's the foundation
stone.
There's
a little connection there, but no, listen, again, I think they've managed to actually keep hold of some players. I think out of the 3 clubs, they've probably lost the most in terms of quality. Got someone like Kyle Walker in there who's going to give you unbelievable amounts of experience, but, you know, can he apply that at Championship level? That'll be interesting. That's a challenge for him. Someone like Marcus Edwards, brilliant player, great, got such technical ability. Again, it's a challenge for him. Someone like Zian Fleming, though, he's done it at this level before. He's above this level, let's be honest, for a number 9, and you expect him to score goals. So if they keep him, if they keep hold of a few others, Max Allen as well, come in on loan from Man City. Obviously, did the business at Watford before getting recalled. They've got a nice little spine, as the word Mark keeps using. But listen, I think out of the 3, I think maybe not too sure.
You think they might struggle a bit?
Just in comparison to Wolves and West Ham, but you never know.
Mark, what's been your experiences of playing at Turf Moor?
Again, another tough club to play. As a club, they're always a bit of a stalewart. You know what you're to expect when you do play them. It's always going to be a tough game. It's always going to go to the wire as well. And they've got goals in their squad. So when they come down and they go back up, you don't know what to expect from them. I don't know whether it's because the gap in the Premier League has got that hard for the ones that go up to sustain it, or if that's almost their model now. They make a lot of money from being that yo-yo club of bouncing up to come down, and they get the parachute payments and they go up again. It almost feels a little bit like that from the outside, but I'm sure as a fan and as a player, that's not what they want.
Yeah, the parachute payments you touch on there, Mark, that's a really important aspect, isn't it? Because each of these 3 clubs will earn around £55 million this year, 45 next, and 20 million the year after to manage that transition out of the Premier League. It really does make it yours to lose, doesn't it, in terms of if you're coming down and you don't get back up, that financial advantage over other Championship sides. But as we saw in Leicester last season, it can go the other way. Yeah,
exactly, and the parachute payments are originally meant to protect the club. Because of the financial loss of not being in the Premier League and the TV money, the higher inflated salaries because you've had Premier League players, it's meant to protect you. But a lot of clubs, like Leicester last year, are guilty of it. They go and spend that money. They go and try and double down and get back up again, and if it doesn't quite happen, it can leave a club in a lot of trouble. So Burnley, on that hand, have to be commended for the way that they do things. Coming down to go back up, it seems financially stable for them.
Let's have a look at the final club who were relegated from the Premier League last year, Wolverhampton Wanderers, who sat in 20th position at the top level for much of the season. They had a really difficult time under Rob Edwards. They have also been busy in the transfer market, bringing in some real experience with Raul Jimenez from Fulham and Kieran Trippier from Newcastle, two 35-year-olds being recruited, and also bringing Welshman Jordan James, former Birmingham City player, of course, on loan from Rennes. João Gomes, though, off to Aston Villa for £38 million, the Brazilian central midfielder, giving them a bit of a surplus from their summer business. Mia, how would you look at Wolves' chances this season?
Yeah, again, another sort of weird one, because you were looking at them last season in the Premier League, and fairly early on they were sort of looking like they were going down, so you're thinking, right, you know, they're going to start building sort of that championship side and that sort of strategy and plan from that point on, really. And obviously brought in Rob Edwards, and that looked like the sort of next sort of stage in the Wolves sort of era. And then, you know, suddenly this summer that's all sort of gone out the window, and I think they announced Jimenez, and Rob Edwards was part of that sort of announcement, and then the next day he was out the door, and you know, the Portuguese,
this is very strange, wasn't it?
Portuguese managers come in, so that sort of was a little bit odd to me. And you know, whether does that change any sort of strategy in there? Is his philosophy very different to Rob Edwards? And you know, those things can have a massive effect, so that's really interesting. But obviously Portuguese ownership, you know, we know the amount of Portuguese players they've had through the door, so there's something in that, I suppose. But again, they've got quality players in there. Someone like Mane, who absolutely had a breakout season last year, he could absolutely light this league on fire if he stays in a Wolves shirt. And I'm pretty surprised he is still in a Wolves shirt, by the way. But you know, someone like Jimenez, like you touched on, that experience, he's so well loved by those fans. Scored but when he was backing gold at Blackburn on match day 1. They're still so strong, and they've probably had the best start out of the 3 that have come down. So again, I think they're looking at that top 3 position, and yeah, it'll be interesting. But you know, we'll have to just wait and see.
Mia thinks top 3 for Wolves. Mark, where would you see them?
Yeah, exactly. I think I'd put them right in the mix as well. Again, we know the quality that they do possess, and I think even you look at their signing this week of John Ruddy. On paper,
yeah, I saw that. Another
on paper,
of
you might think it's a
men.
bit of a surprise signing a 39-year-old, but someone that knows the club so well and a hugely experienced player in the dressing room. Hate to say, but I'm a goalkeeper advocate and a 39-year-old. I think clubs need it. I think it's so important. So having someone like John back in the building that knows the club will be able to set in place the standards that are required for a successful season. I think signings like that will go under the radar, but are hugely important.
Well, you were talking to us last week, Mark, from the World Cup about how many keepers were still doing it at age 38 and above, and John Ruddy, another example. Goodness, it seems an eternity ago that he was starting out at Cambridge United. Right, back to the here and now. The sun's gone in a little bit now as the clouds come over in the late summer here at the racecourse ground, and Lewis O'Brien has been on press conference duty this week, looking ahead to tonight's game against Birmingham City.
Well, good, Lewis, good to see you. I mean, we're in a new facility. Have you found it so far?
Yeah, it's nice. We only came in this morning, just have a little look around. I think we're officially in on Monday, so yeah, it's exciting times really to get the new building and stuff, new changing rooms. Lads really like it.
And we look at the stadium, obviously the new cop stand that's being built. It should be open early next year. I mean, this facility now as well, all of that together, it represents the whole growth of the whole club, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great feeling around the club, obviously. Looking at how things are progressing, obviously the players did it the last couple of years on the pitch, and off the pitch is now getting to the stage that we're at now, so yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, so let's talk about on the pitch. A couple of draws in the Championship so far. I mean, how have you assessed the first 2 games, and where do you think you're at?
Yeah, I mean, performance-wise, I think we played really well, just the slight margins of error that have let us down, but if you look at last season, we're 2 points better off than we were, so it's always a positive looking back. But yeah, the performances have been good. I just think maybe, yeah, the little things like maybe defending free kicks, corners, stuff better, and finishing it at the top of the goal, both boxes, is probably where we need to improve.
And you mentioned performances there. I mean, you know, last season there was a massive overhaul within the squad, and you were part of it as well, and it took a bit of time to gel. But does it feel like you've hit the ground running a little bit better? Maybe not got the results you wanted, but as a team, and the performances are much quicker this season.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few lads coming in the building this transfer window as well, but obviously not as many as there was last year. We all kind of know each other and how we want to play, how the gaffer wants to play, and the club wants to move in a certain direction. So I think you can see that on the pitch as well, that all the lads love each other around the club and stuff, and yeah, it's really positive.
And a couple of new faces added to the squad today officially, and one that you knew already, Issa Kabore. I mean, how nice is it to have him back, and obviously Jacques coming in as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to get reinforcements, especially in the areas that we need them, because it's we've got a good team, but obviously adding good depth in the squad is important as well. I think we've got, however, every player could start, and it's a good place to have that competition every day.
Just on Birmingham, Lewis, there was a real battle between the two teams in League One, and obviously it continued last season, and it feels like a big fixture Friday night at home as well. How do you look ahead to that one?
Yeah, I think it's probably more your storyline on it being a big fixture. It's just another championship game. We've prepared in exactly the same way that we would to any other game. It's we seem to be on telly quite a lot in the start of the season, so we've just got to take the games as they come and just see it as another one.
And in terms of it just being a match, as you say, does it feel like a chance to maybe try and ignite your season and really get that lift off?
Yeah, I mean, it might not happen Friday, hopefully it does, but we're obviously looking to build on the performances. Sometimes you can look at the performances more than the results that happen, and hopefully we can add everything together and get a positive 3 points.
Lewis O'Brien, Wrexham midfielder, looking ahead to tonight's game against Birmingham City, which kicks off in just under a quarter of an hour's time here at the Racecourse Ground. If you missed the graphic at the top of the show, quick reminder for you of the Wrexham team this evening. One change from the team that drew 1-1 with Watford. Ikomi comes in at left wing back in place of George Thomason. Josh Windass returns to the bench, as does the other alteration on the bench, Issa Kabore, returning to the club on a permanent move in midweek. He comes straight onto the bench. So Kabore and Windass onto the bench, Keeler, Dunn and Dobson making way. And the most significant news of all, Ikomi makes his first start since his arrival from Angers on Wednesday at left wing back. Lewis O'Brien Mere there on media duty this week. He's had a really energetic start to the season, hasn't he, in midfield? And we saw that from him quite a bit last season, his ability to cover ground and his versatility, whether he's playing in that second kind of number 8 position or whether he's playing a little bit more further forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I think he's been really, really good since the start of this season, and I've been really impressed with him. I actually prefer him in that deeper role. I think we've got sort of better players in you like to play those 10s, and I just think he's so good in that role because he can still get up there. He's so box to box, he's so fit. The running, I mean, I thought he was unbelievable at Cardiff. The amount of distance he actually covered, I would have loved to actually see those numbers because he was just absolutely everywhere. But yeah, I think we haven't sort of got anyone else like him really in this squad. So I think even if we end up maybe in a few weeks rotating to maybe a James and a Whiteman in that 2, he's someone who can certainly come off the bench and make an impact. But I still think he actually wants to keep that shirt, and he at the moment deserves to keep that shirt in that starting 11.
Is this season a bit of a defining one, Mark, do you think, for Lewis O'Brien? Because he was such a promising young player. He played in the Premier League for Nottingham Forest. Then he ended up with a few loans, including out in the United States. And then last season, he was in and out of the side a little bit. A few good moments, got a few goals, perhaps missed a few opportunities, but equally was asked to play a more advanced position than he'd been asked to play for much of his early career. Do you think he'll be looking at this season and go, right, I'm settled at this club now. This is the team I'm really going to kick on and be kind of first name on the team sheet?
100%. As a player, that's all he's ever going to be looking for, is to guarantee that he's playing every week. He'll be no different than that. I was really impressed with him last season. His running stats were through the roof. He's one of those players like Ollie Rathbone that as the game goes on and people get tired, they look fitter, they look stronger. And I think that Phil has got so much confidence in them too, especially, that they wear teams down and they gain. What they do is they gain so much more for everyone else. They're unselfish players. They do the hard yards to allow players like Windass to get on the ball, to allow the quality players to play. But O'Brien's no different. He's a quality player himself that will be looking to get more goals this season, more assists, and play as many minutes as possible.
And looking at the turnover of the squad a bit and the new faces, together with the position he plays and the level he's played at, to come back to your point about the senior players group, who might or might not call a players meeting, will he be one of those players moving into that group now at the club, do you think?
With his playing experience, 100%. There is so many. Phil's so good at bringing those sort of players in. And like we said about his signings, he does so much recon about the players. He does so much due diligence, making sure that they're the right personalities. I bet you that leadership meeting in there goes with about 20 players in that group. So it's all fair credit to the manager and what he does bring in. But yeah, I'm sure that O'Brien, with the experience he does have, and he'll definitely be one of those.
Mia, players back in the tunnel now, the crowd building up, the atmosphere building here. 2-1 alls against Birmingham here in the last couple of seasons. Both of them have been decent Wrexham performances. They haven't managed quite to put Birmingham away. How do you think the players will focus tonight on where they might hurt Birmingham?
Listen, I think if I'm Phil Parkinson, I'm saying to these players, get that ball out wide. When you're against that back four, can you make those gaps? Because they'll get stretched so easily if we can do that tonight. Ekome up against Cochrane. Listen, if there's a race between those two, there's only one winner. I think maybe same on the other side as well with Imre against Cochrane on the right side for Wrexham. There's only one winner in that dynamic. So I just think we've got to get the ball out wide and hopefully do better than we did on Saturday in terms of then those balls into the box.
Mark, Mia, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts pre-match. We look forward to seeing you at half-time when we'll be joined by Mark McGregor as well in the studio. Mark Howard and Mia Roberts heading off to join Mark Griffiths on co-commentary tonight. So if you haven't sorted yourself out with your necessary audio or video passes, head to wrexhamafc.co.uk/live. You might already be there. We're now going out on the live stream with Matchday Live as well as on YouTube. Reminder, of course, that you yourself can feature on the screens both in the stadium and our holding slate that we put up during the periods of play. If you look at the QR code on screen now, you can see how you can share your selfie. Tell us where you're watching from around the world and make sure that you are able to give yourself the chance to feature as part of the broadcast this evening on what we hope will be an important night in Wrexham's evolution in the Championship this season. 2 wins would be the start that everybody wanted, but we've had 2 draws thus far at Cardiff and against Watford. Is tonight the night that Wrexham bank 3 points against Birmingham City? They have been the club alongside whom Wrexham have risen up through League One and have found their way into the Championship, stabilising in the first season. Is this the night that Wrexham can finally put away Chris Davis' side, bank 3 points and send supporters into the weekend with a smile on their face ahead of the bank holiday? Here's hoping. We'll be back here at half-time with Mark and Mia. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll see you then. Otherwise, if you're joining on the live stream, I hand you over to commentary now with Mark Griffiths.
Mae'r bryderi'n swyddog wedi ddynodi fynachau amser o 3 munud, ychwanegol the fourth officials indicated that there will be a minimum of 3 minutes, and in time, 3 minutes. Begin Sabara Cairo, Steve Mount, Ben already, and Edmund Burnley in a big contact and strike Edward King. A reminder, the next home game here at the Kairos is on Tuesday, September 8th, when Birmingham are the visitors for our Sky Bet Championship match, which will kick off at 7:45 p.m.
Half-time here at the racecourse ground. It is Wrexham 0, Birmingham City 1, and Phil Parkinson's side with a second half mountain to climb here after an assured opening 45 from Chris Davis's Blues, who in truth could have been further ahead. First opportunity of the night came in the 6th minute. Ollie Rathbone needing to head away off the line from Christoph Clara's header, and then Demari Gray's run and shot was deflected wide. Wrexham was struggling to really ask questions at the other end of the field, and the opening goal came in the 13th minute from a corner from the right-hand side that was whipped in. Phil Neumann managed to force his way in at the back post. Anthony Patterson couldn't force his way through a crowd of players in the 6-yard box, and Neumann got up at the far post to give Birmingham City the lead. Kiefer Moore had a header saved by James Beadle at the other end as Wrexham fired their first shot in anger. But if Jay Stansfield had done better with a golden chance in the 23rd minute, then Wrexham really would have had it all to do. But they remain in touch. Danny Imre's shot 8 minutes before the break. The other opportunity of note for the Reds in the first half. Beadle again parrying that one away. Nathan Broadhead unable to capitalise on the rebound. So 1-0 to the Blues at half-time. Mark Howard, Mia Roberts and Mark McGregor, formerly of Wrexham, joining us in the half-time studio. Mark Howard, I'll start with you. Where have Birmingham been better in this first 45?
I just think their shape, tactically, they've sat in a better mid-block. In the midfield, they're not letting Wrexham have any space. They're doubling up on everyone, and then they're allowing the 1v1 duels out wide, and Wrexham have just lacked quality in those. So it was only in the last 5-10 minutes of the game that Wrexham actually started to come into it, and they made the pitch bigger. They started playing more directly from deeper, instead of just that slow build-up play, wait until they got in Birmingham's half, and then trying to make that forward pass, or that through ball. Instead, they started doing it from slightly deeper, which created more space through the lines. Wrexham can feel themselves quite lucky to not have conceded 3 so far in this half. It's been quite a frustrating half, but there's a lot to work on and a lot to talk about at half-time.
Mia, what needs to change?
Listen, I just think there's got to be more quality, a bit more maybe patience from a Wrexham point of view, as well as that little bit of bravery. I think a few too many times we've been a little bit
We understand there might be 1 or 2 difficulties on sound, so I'm going to use my mic to bring Mark McGregor in. Mark, how have you seen the first half, and what have Wrexham got to do to change this one around?
Yeah, no, Birmingham's been so professional. It's a perfect away performance so far, and I fully expect, obviously Phil's got him in the changing room now. You know, we can see glimpses of Wrexham. I expect so much more second half. I know there'll probably be changes, and you can see that coming, but they've just got to keep attacking, because I'm sure, you know, the crowd will get behind them attacking the end that we're so used to scoring goals in. So it'll be perfect to get an early goal on, and I fully expect them to hopefully we can definitely grab an equaliser and go on and maybe win the game.
Me and Mark, we'll let you get back to commentary. We'll see you again at full time, leaving me and Mark McGregor the chance to have a chat. Mark, a Wrexham player from 1995 to 2001, Brian Flynn years here at the Racecourse Ground, 6 seasons in what is now League One. I tell you what, Mark, I bet you wouldn't have minded playing on this playing surface, wouldn't you?
The pitch is absolutely magnificent. Obviously, we were playing on like brown pitches even in the early days in August, September, etc. But I couldn't blame a bobble on this pitch from now.
Back in that era, it was 6 years of, by Wrexham standards, relatively settled football, wasn't it? Because no promotions and no relegations in that time. And of course, one very memorable FA Cup run in 1997 against tonight's opposition, Birmingham City. We're going to have a look in a moment at the goals from that epic match back in February 97 that you played in. But just give us a bit of an overview, Mark, of that run that took Wrexham from the first round right through to the Birmingham game, which was round 5.
The whole season, even we missed out on the playoffs by 1 goal eventually, but the FA Cup just rolled into that because it was game after game, and the snow game at West Ham. Yeah, I know it's green now, but it was white then days, even the orange ball. And
yes, that was a classic snow-covered pitch, wasn't it? Harry Redknapp wasn't happy, and Hugo Porfirio, I think, was playing for West Ham, and he'd never seen snow before.
Yeah, he scored the equaliser, and they were like wiping the lines off literally 10 minutes before kick-off, so that was brilliant. And then even the replay that we had to play, that got called off with fog, and then obviously we went up there and beat West Ham. So we were a game behind basically in the FA Cup, and then we had to play Peterborough on a Tuesday night, and their stadium got set on fire. So there was a lot going on in that FA Cup run, and then obviously we ended up at the Birmingham game it was on my birthday, so that was absolutely perfect.
I didn't know it had been your birthday, Mark, that epic day, February 15th of February, I think, 97. Birmingham a championship side, Wrexham League One, of course.
Yeah, it rolled into my birthday. My birthday was on the Sunday, but I like to tell people it was because we stayed out, obviously, celebrating the win, and it was an amazing day that day. They had so many stars. Steve Bruce, obviously, Man United, he scored the opening goal that day, and we were brilliant. We felt comfortable all day, to be honest. I know they had a man sent off, but it was you can ask any Wrexham fan who was there that day. We scored all 3 goals, in the end, that we were attacking second half, and everybody thinks that's one of the best away performances in the club's history.
We can have a look at those goals now. As Mark McGregor mentioned, Steve Bruce with the opener for Birmingham, you're going to see first, giving the home side the lead at their home stadium, St Andrews. And then equaliser coming in for Wrexham from Brian Hughes, whose performance so impressed the Birmingham City management that day they signed him. Then the second goal from Tony Humes, who guested on this show last season. And the third from King Carl Connolly, sending Wrexham through into the quarter-finals, and that end into delirium. And of course that meant, Mark, a place in the quarter-finals for only the 3rd time in our history, the furthest we've ever got in that tournament, but just that disappointment against Chesterfield when that day came.
Yeah, I mean, the whole day didn't feel right for me. It was a 11:30 kick-off. I think we were on SLC back in the day. We were eating like chicken and pasta like at 8:30 in the morning. The whole day didn't feel like an FA Cup quarter-final that I'd been used to coming. But obviously the TV, set them stone. So I was like, OK, let's get on with it. But unfortunately, we just didn't have enough to get over the line that day.
Now, of course, your time at Wrexham, Mark, came to an end in 2001 after 6 seasons. You moved up to Burnley, about an hour or so from here, and moved up to the Championship to play under legendary Burnley manager Stan Ternent. There are so many stories. What on earth was Stan like to play for, Mark?
I mean, the first couple of weeks I found out, so it was like, he knew what he was doing. He knew how to deal with players, etc. So, I mean, obviously Glenn Little played here for Wrexham as well, and he was a great player for Burnley at the time. But either teapots or just, I mean, he subbed me off a couple of times without even being injured. He just chucked an ice pack on me and said, "Get on with it." It's like, okay, he wanted to change the team, no problem. But no, he was a brilliant man management, and it was a pleasure to play for him. And he was just one of the old school managers, which you probably don't see enough these days.
And when you reflect back on your career, because you also had a spell at Blackpool after Burnley, but the majority was spent here at the racecourse ground, Mark? Beyond that great cup run, of course, any other particular memory that stands out for you as a career highlight?
Obviously, one of my goals here against Gillingham, I scored it from I keep saying it's 40 yards, but it might have been a bit closer, but it stopped Gillingham getting promoted, which they weren't happy with that day, because obviously Burnley got promoted, who I went on to play for. And also, obviously, I got Player of the Year, which, you know, I also got Young Player of the Year, which only 2 people have ever done for the club's history, which I feel, you know, very grateful for.
Who's the other?
Neil Roberts.
Ah, right, who we've had on this show, of course, as well. What are you up to nowadays, Mark?
Just getting out and about, keeping myself busy, mainly doing a bit of outwork, gardening stuff, so I keep in the sun, because that's all I've known, getting up, going out and playing on grass, really.
Do you miss playing?
I mean, I love it. I would never not say I didn't, and I still turn out for the Wrexham Legends. You know, we play a couple of games of the year, getting to see like old players and, you know, reminisce like we're doing now.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, I can hear the players are on their way out. The current Wrexham team running out now. Thank you so much for joining us on Match Day Live today. And here's hoping for a Wrexham recovery in the second half.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Mark McGregor, Wrexham 1995 to 2001, joining us on Match Day Live. Right, players are on their way out for the second half. Let's see if Wrexham can turn this round. Wrexham 0, Birmingham City 1 at half-time. Please rejoin us on YouTube at full-time for all the post-match reaction. And if you're watching on the live stream now, I'll hand you back to commentary with Mark Griffiths.
Half-time substitution for Birmingham, leaving the field number 10, Damara Gray. He's replaced by number 16, Patrick Roberts. Substitutions for Wrexham, leaving the field number 33, Nathan Broadhead. He's been replaced by number 28, Sam Smith. Leaving the field number 20, Ollie Rathbone. He's been replaced by number 10, Josh Windass. Leaving the field number 3, Jacques Ecounier. He's been replaced by number 10, Josh Windass. And leaving the field number 30, Danny Ingram. He's been replaced by number 12, Issa Kabore. Substitution for Birmingham City in the field number 28, Jay Stansfield. He's been replaced by number 8, Ike Sutton. Substitute for Wrexham in midfield, number 19, Key for Moore. He has been replaced by number 11, Bailey Calamartri. Substitution for Birmingham City leading the field, number 9, August Priske. He's been replaced by number 32, Luis Vasquez. Right to go, Panama out of Kairos. The official attendance in Kairos, 10,536. Our grateful thanks to the 1,267 Birmingham fans who have given us safe journey home. Substitution for Birmingham leaving the field, number 7, Carlos Vicente. He is being replaced by number 23, Dale Fry. And leaving the field, number 26, Bright Asai Samuel, is being replaced by number 2, Ethan Laird. Mae'r pedwerydd swyddog wedi dynodi gyda lleafswm o 4 munud, ychwanegol court officials indicated there will be a minimum of 4 minutes, and in time that's 4 minutes.
Full time here at the racecourse ground, and it has finished Wrexham 1, Birmingham City 2. So Wrexham's wait to beat Birmingham here at home goes out to 47 years. In truth, Chris Davis' side were on the front foot from the first whistle here, and whilst Wrexham rattled cages early in the second half, bringing the match back level with a goal from Callum Doyle. It was German Phil Neumann with his second of the night, who in the end won the game for the Blues. Wrexham will reflect on a disappointing evening in North Wales. Neumann with the first in the 13th minute, heading home at the far post after Anthony Patterson couldn't get through a crowd of players, and Neumann was the strongest at the far post. That was 1-0 at half-time, and Wrexham had work to do in the second half. Callum Doyle, though, was on hand to turn home a Lewis O'Brien delivery, really neatly taken by Doyle in the 54th minute to level matters. And when Kiefer Moore snaked his way through 7 minutes later, Wrexham were very close to taking the lead, but he could only find the side netting. That was to prove crucial in the 64th minute when Wrexham failed to clear a long throw. And when it came in second time around, it was once again the tall frame of Neumann who headed beyond Anthony Patterson. Wrexham rallied late on with late pressure, Kabore bringing energy off the bench, but they couldn't do enough to beat James Beadle. It looked at one stage that Sam Smith might have just about done so, but the Brighton loanee scrambled across his line to deny the Wrexham substitute. So no points from Wrexham from tonight's proceedings. Mark Howard and Mia Roberts have been on co-commentary with Mark Griffiths. Mark, I'll come to you first. What was your overall reflection on the night?
I was impressed by Birmingham, I must say that first and foremost. I thought that their shape, their defensively, they sat in, but they really did deny Wrexham any space in the middle of the park. I thought Broadhead struggled in the first half to find those pockets and really did struggle to make anything happen. It was only when Josh Windass came on that he managed to drop slightly deeper beyond that low block that Birmingham did have, and then get his head up and start trying to look forward a bit more. But yeah, frustrating night. More frustrated that the first contacts from set pieces, Wrexham didn't defend well enough. The 2 goals was just defensive organisation almost, and some good deliveries also from Birmingham. But yeah, and just struggled to get into the game. I can't really remember, apart from the excellent double save that James Beadle makes, Wrexham having too many clear-cut chances.
Mia, we picked out Phil Neumann before the game as the key man for Birmingham City. Wasn't expecting him to be the match winner at this end of the park, though. Do you think the second goal tonight is one that's going to perhaps irritate Phil Parkinson, perhaps more than the first?
100%. Listen, I think both are frustrating, but maybe for different reasons. I think firstly focusing on that second one, it looks like Kiefer Moore's in full control. The throwing comes in, it looks like he's gotten sort of, listen, never say easy clearance, but certainly a clearance you'd expect him to make, and he just gets it wrong. Whether he thinks I don't know if it strikes the wrong part of his foot, I haven't actually watched the replay of it properly, but he just ends up sending it straight back out to Prisker on the outside, who, by the way, it's a brilliant cross in because he does it first time, he gets such quality on it. But then I think as that ball's coming into Kiefer Moore, I think defensively, I think we just stop, because I think naturally they expect him to clear it. They expect that ball to be going far away from their box. So I think it's Zach Viner. I think he stops, sort of checks his shoulder, and then as he sort of looked back, the ball's coming back in, and everyone's sort of wrong side. And fair play to Neumann, who's completely right side, and again gets a quality header. Obviously had to do more than he did for the first, but superb from him to get on the goal sheet twice. Like you say, obviously we said before the game, one to watch. I wasn't necessarily saying that for his goal scoring ability, but there you go.
I actually think that I think he'll be looking to add a few more goals to his tally.
Yeah.
Did you? Well, check that back afterwards, Mark, but you probably did. The lack of chance creation, Mark, you cited that just a moment ago. Is that perhaps as much of a concern as the defensive gaps that have led to the Birmingham goals? Because, as you said, apart from the scramble when Smith almost forced it home, the number of times Beadle was seriously extended wasn't that many.
No, exactly. I think he's made one save in the first half from Imre, and then he's made a couple in the second half from a couple of headers. It's just frustrating. I think, again, Wrexham have lacked a little bit of quality in the wide areas. We're so accustomed to seeing excellent delivery coming in the box with 2 strikers running, and then the extra wide man, and then a third man run from midfield. I just don't think that there's enough people making the box at the moment. They're doing such good work, Kiefer Moore included in this, under the ball and defensively, that they're not allowing themselves to run forward and get in the box and get on the end of those crosses. I think it's just lacking a little bit of quality for Wrexham at the moment.
Is that the point though, do you think, Mark? Is it the early season, the view has been we'll defend and we'll make sure we're hard to beat, and then we'll have to look secondarily towards attacking as much, avoid some of the profligacy of the start of last season? Do you think that might be what's going on?
At the start of every season it's like that. You go out
for most clubs to focus on defending first.
Defending first, because if you don't concede goals you can't lose a game of football. So first and foremost you want to set up a base of a compact spine, defend narrow, defend the box and limit chances. I think Wrexham are doing that. The games that I've seen this season, they aren't conceding loads and loads of chances. So they're defending well, but they're getting punished for the ones that they do allow.
I guess on that, people will look back and say the first half at Cardiff, they were actually, perhaps that was their most front foot performance of, if you look at the 6 halves of the 3 league games, and that's perhaps been the challenge, trying to replicate that front foot threat since that point.
Yeah, exactly that. And sometimes it just takes one moment of quality from one player to just do something that changes the game. And I think Windass coming on today is that player. I think Wrexham have been waiting for that. They've relied on that last year, and I think that we've all been waiting for it again. And we're only 3 games into a season, but we know that the quality he does possess, and the way that he does get his head up and look for that forward pass or that cross from a wide area, it makes other players more creative as well.
Mia, let's break down the wide players, because this was an area that Phil talked to us about after Watford tonight. So Danny Imre started on the right, Issa Kabore came on for the last 20, Jack Ikome on his debut on the left, Ryan Longman on for the last 20. Give us your thoughts on the 4 of them.
Firstly, Ikome on debut. Listen, I thought he did a lot of the basics right. I said at half time, I'm not sure if you heard, but Vicente, I thought he just marked him out of the game really, and just made his life really difficult in terms of actually he wasn't getting any real quality balls into him, just because Vicente was just sitting out wide and just saying, once Birmingham got that first goal, he just stayed on him and he just removed him completely. He wasn't allowing him to be that outlet, wasn't allowing him to be that spare man, and that just killed us a bit really, because like Mark says, so much of our creative play and our forward-thinking play comes through those wide players. I think then, obviously, Kabore comes on. Imre as well, I should mention before him. Maybe not his best night, so far, arguably. I think he's looked brilliant so far, but tonight maybe just lacking that little bit of quality. But again, I just think that comes through the whole side, really. I thought playing out from the back, a few Viner, Doyle passes weren't quite at it today, and that's a platform for how we play football. We need those balls to be right, whether it's Hyam or Doyle or Viner. We just didn't have that sort of intent tonight. That just didn't build. We weren't able to build from the back. And then obviously Longman and Kabore coming on. I thought, again, I said it on commentary, I thought Kabore did a lot of things right today. I think he was unlucky at the end, had a few where his touch is just a little bit loose, and again, that's just match sharpness. He just hasn't been playing regular competitive games. Longman had a few opportunities, crosses, again, just lacking that bit of quality on the cross. Listen, there's so much potential out wide. Let's not forget how excited we were before the game. And today, it's the first time we've seen Ikome. It's the first time he's played with any of these boys, so he's still got so much to learn. But, still positives you can take from that. But like we said, plenty for them to learn still as well.
Kabore, Mark, when he came on, looked like a man who'd just been unleashed from a lead, didn't it? The speed with which he ran onto the field, the immediately turning around to the fans and kind of encouraging them to shout louder every time he won a corner. He looked delighted to be out there, and he brought that customary energy that we've seen from last season. As Mia says, the more minutes he gets, the more we'll see perhaps the assists from last year, because there was certainly evidence tonight to suggest that was the Kabore that we remember.
Yeah, exactly that. And Issa will tell you himself that he's behind on minutes in pre-season. They've only played behind closed doors games at Man City, so he hasn't actually played competitive games, hence why he probably was thrown on for the last 20 minutes of the game. But what an injection he did have into that game, and like you said, just the willingness and the enthusiasm to encourage his players, encourage the fans as well. I thought he was really impressive when he came on and had a real impact.
If he's lacking minutes, Mark, and he's behind the group and conscious as well that there's no Carabao Cup tie to come to next, how can he try and make that up as quickly as possible? What will he be doing?
I think it's just training. Phil will know that. Phil will know that they need practice games. It's a squad game, as we talked about last week. You have to play behind closed doors games or friendlies against other teams, and you just have to somehow get those minutes in. all the data analysts will be helping, the physiotherapy, they'll be helping as well, but they'll make sure that they're putting demands on him, making sure that his sprint distances are up and that his running distances are also there to match the players that are playing.
Do you think there'll be a few of those put in the diary behind closed doors, tight matches for the likes of him and Davis Keeler-Dunn, who didn't even make the bench tonight, George Dobson, Bailey Kadamati, because with no Carabao, as we've said before, getting meaningful minutes is going to be hard.
Yeah, it will have to, 100%. It will have to happen behind closed doors. They will have games that obviously we don't get to find out about, but it's just valuable minutes for everyone. Sometimes they're a hindrance, but like you said, when there's no League Cup action, they need those vital minutes.
Well, we'll take a look now at the stats from tonight's game to see how this one was won by Birmingham City. Mark McGregor, our guest at half-time, talked about the fact that it was pretty much the perfect away performance in the first half. Let's have a look through the stats to see how they shook down for the whole game. Well, Wrexham actually having, by some distance, more of the possession through the night, but Birmingham still getting more shots away, both of them with 4 on target. 5 clear-cut chances, Mia, for Birmingham City, as we can see on screen tonight, and more corners. So although they had significantly less possession, their ability to really ask questions of Anthony Patterson's goal from the stats suggesting that that was far stronger than the threat Wrexham carried.
Yeah, and even just in that first half, I go back to that Jay Stansfield chance that
should have scored, shouldn't he?
Absolutely should have scored. It was a massive, massive opportunity. But also earlier than that, I think Ollie Rathbone cleared one off the line with his face. Didn't know too much about that. I think that was a set piece as well. So, just a number of chances. I think they had a few in this second half as well, as Wrexham obviously pressed more to try and get an equaliser. But yeah, listen, I still think Wrexham looked okay defensively. I don't think they were massively cut open. There were a few times when there were a few moments where they were, in terms of obviously when they, like I say, when they've gone to get that equaliser, which naturally you would just expect. But just looking at those stats, just on those successful crosses for Wrexham, I mean, 3 out of 22, that's just not good enough. And
no.
Listen, we're up against tonight. We're up against a top defensive line. Let's not get that twisted. We obviously highlighted Newman, but we spoke about Clara so many times over the past 2 seasons. He's so solid, and he's one of them that you just think avoid him, and you might get a bit of joy. I saw Manchester United versus Hull last weekend. That was exactly Hull's tactic. On all set pieces, on all crosses into the box, they just avoided Harry Maguire. It sounds easier said than done, absolutely, of course it is. But that's got to be, in the sort of thinking, whether it's a pullback, whether it's you keep it on the ground. There are ways around it. And I just didn't think we didn't look to have that sort of plan. When we got into those good positions, again, it was a little bit, maybe taking an extra touch. We didn't have that sort of, immediate knowledge of what we were going to do with that ball into the box. And we're just missing that sort of natural instinct when we get into those good positions at the moment.
I must also say, Samuel, there was 3 brilliant bits of defending from him that almost denied certain goals. The one that he got on Kiefer Moore's back, some of his recovery runs across when Sam Smith looked like he was through one-on-one on the edge of the box. I think that if it wasn't for him, Wrexham would have had 3 or 4 more chances in the game.
Yeah, interesting story as well. 5 years at Fenerbahce, Bright Asai Samuel, so getting some international experience in the Turkish league before coming back to domestic championship football, where of course he's been before. Let's have a look at the defensive statistics from the evening, because the Wrexham defence unable to keep out the Birmingham centre-back Phil Neumann on 2 key occasions. But at the other end, as we've been discussing, Wrexham really struggling to ask significant questions of the Birmingham backline, who made the same number of headed clearances through the night, equal in the aerial duels as well, making slightly more interceptions, but there just seemed to be a little bit more cohesion about that Birmingham defence that meant that there was, as you say, Mark, previously, there was a covering defender coming across, and the opportunity for Wrexham to really find a chance to create something in that box was so few and far between.
Yeah, exactly. And Birmingham looked really well drilled in that. Every time their centre-back went up, they had 2 covering defenders. And that's an art in itself. That takes a lot of training to make sure that happens every time. When one goes up, 2 come around. So you're always covering. I think that the stats don't actually show it then, but I would say Birmingham edged it a lot on first contacts. And then also second regains. And I think that's where Birmingham just edged out tonight. I think it was a set-piece game as well. Their first goal from a corner. 2 great deliveries early on from Cochrane. It's difficult because Patterson gets blocked in. He needs his defender that's marking goal side to almost clear him so he can then affect the cross. Obviously, it's a great header as well around the back post. And then the second goal, it's a long throw-in. Headed out, kicked out second phase, and a lovely cross from Prisk. Again, another good header. But still, they're set pieces. We should be able to defend them better.
Yeah. There was too much space, wasn't there, for the second Neumann goal there, really. I mean, he must have thought, great, I've got plenty of time to pick my spot here.
Yeah, and I think I said it earlier. It's just the point of that switch off. That they have a look and it's gone to Kiefer Moore on the edge of the box, and you automatically assume, right, he's sorted that, he's got that covered, and yeah, it's just that little bit maybe early season. Can you still use that sort of excuse? I'm not sure, but. Listen, there'll be a lot of frustration in there tonight. I'm sure of that. We came into this game. I was fairly confident coming into this tonight. I know Birmingham, off the back of a big defeat, you can almost see that from two sides of the coin. They either come out firing, which they did, or they're still on that bit of a slump. And fair play. We've said it a lot, and we've praised Birmingham, and rightfully so. I thought they were brilliant. I thought their plan. I thought they stopped most things at source, whether that was their press, whether that was the defensive setup. The way Clara plays. I mean, he is just a joke of a defender at times. The way he can track his man, and it's all just game intelligence. He just reads the game so well. He knows where that pass is going to go, and he's just sharper. And I think that's maybe tonight we didn't look as sharp. We looked like the team that had played on Tuesday night.
The best patch of the game, Mia, from a Wrexham perspective, was the 15 minutes or so after half-time, wasn't it, when the goal came, and that was the real bright spot of the night. A really good delivery from Lewis O'Brien, and beautifully taken by Callum Doyle. We've seen him pop up and become a goal-scoring centre-back last season, and he's starting on the right footing this time. Yeah,
and I said earlier about us being a bit indecisive in those areas. That was the one bit of the night where we've had that bit of quality, a bit of patience, a bit of composure. I think originally it's off the corner, gets cleared off the corner, and I think there was a bit of frustration in the crowd. I think it falls to Rathbone, and there's a moment where you're thinking, just get it back in the box. We've still got bodies in there, but he holds it up, keeps playing. I think it's 4 or 5 passes in there, and then Lewis O'Brien just steps in, has that bit of space, and it's a beautiful cross into that far post. And that's all we're asking for, as if it's quite easy. But that's the bit that's missing at the moment, just that bit of quality in those areas, just that little big touch from him, and then whips it in, and Callum Doyle's still in there to strike home. And yeah, at that point you're thinking, right, this is it now. We go on and we go again, and again it's just that, like we said, preventable at the other end.
That looked like it could be the moment when Wrexham were going to turn the tide here, but sadly that didn't materialise, because a second Birmingham goal put this game to bed. So what does the manager make of things this evening? Well, Phil Parkinson has been reflecting pitch side with Will Pritchard.
Phil, a 2-1 defeat here at the Racecourse Ground against Birmingham City. How do you reflect back and assess that one on the whole?
Well, in all my time here, those are 2 of the softest goals we've conceded, and you can't expect to win games of football if you don't defend your box like we didn't tonight. And
in terms of defending the box and those sort of moments, what do you put that down to? Is there anything you can put that down to?
Just being stronger in those moments. The goals are so soft, it hurts me a lot, because we look like a team with a soft centre tonight, and I'm not going to accept that.
And when you look at the game on the whole, obviously there was the equaliser, and imagine that frustrations come ultimately when that second goal's come in as well, and you've not been able to find that reaction again.
Yeah, I thought first half we lacked conviction in our play, lacked belief, and I don't know why. Some of the build-up play was okay, but in and around the box there was not enough kind of responsibility taken. And second half we started really well. How I want us to play, aggressive, forward thinking, and we got in some good situations. We finally got the goal. But to concede that goal from a second phase of a long throw is unacceptable.
I'd imagine obviously some of the discussions in the dressing room wouldn't have been particularly nice ones to have, but in terms of looking ahead to Millwall, how can you make sure that this team can bounce back and get back to what you're used to?
Well, we've got to have a spirit which I want from the group, and I felt we showed that really well at Cardiff. Did that goal knock us? Well, listen, you can't feel sorry for yourself. In football, it's 2 games on from that. You're going to only help ourselves as a group. But when we look back at the game, to concede goals in the way we did today is really disappointing. And I've got to make sure the team has got a hard edge to it, whichever team I pick on Wednesday night.
And then just in terms of the new additions, obviously Issa, Jax, Josh Windass back on the pitch, obviously that's some more options for you as well. Is that something that over the next couple of days you'll have a think in terms of your squad and how you balance that one out?
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how Josh and Issa have done after tonight, and we'll pick the team which is ready to go to Millwall and stand strong.
Thanks, Phil.
Wrexham manager Phil Parkinson giving his reflections post-match to Will Pritchard a few minutes ago. We'll get Mark Howard and Mia Roberts' thoughts on Phil's comments in just a moment, but we've got Ollie Rathbone joined us in the studio post-match. Thanks, Ollie, for coming across to see us. What were your reflections on that 90 minutes?
Really disappointing overall. But I think goals change games, and I think that was evident tonight. I think the goals, the timing of the goals, how soft they were really killed us, especially in that second half. I thought, first half, I think they were aggressive, they were front foot, they made it difficult for us. But second half, I thought we started really well. I thought we were by far the dominant team. Then when we get that goal, I think many times at the racecourse over the last few years, it's 2, 3, 4, and that's how I felt it would be. But that second goal kills us, knocks the wind out of our sails, and we didn't really react from it, I don't think.
Why don't you think there was the reaction?
Why in the second half?
Yeah.
I think they made it really difficult, in fairness. I think there's no doubt about it. It's not disrespectful saying it. They were very direct, and when you are trying to break a team down like that, it's difficult because every time they win it back, every time there's a free kick, the ball's then in your 18-yard box and you've got to get up 100 yards up the field to score, so it makes it difficult. And I thought as the changes we made to try and chase the game, we lost a bit of fluidity and it all came a little bit chaotic. Disappointing night overall, but it's gone now. We'll dust ourselves down and go again for a big week coming.
Birmingham's shape obviously was frustrating because they sat in that kind of mid-block, but they really compacted the midfield and made it hard for you and Nathan Broader to get in space. Was there any way or instructions coming on from the sides to get the ball wider and get in behind them?
Yeah, and I think the few times we did that first half, I think we were cut through them. I felt I got in the pockets a few times, fed Danny down that right hand side and got a few good crosses in, a few good moments, but then just from that it just felt like they were very close to kind of attacking, and every time the ball went forward it kind of stayed, and I think their centre half made it really difficult for Kiefer all night. But credit where credit's due. They came here off the back of a really poor result midweek, and they did what they needed to do to win the game.
And you said that goals change games. Obviously the save from Kiefer Moore and Sam Smith from James Beadle, the double save, obviously that has a huge output into this game. If that goes in, it could then turn in Wrexham's favour again, but he makes that double save and it kind of took the wind out of Wrexham's sails.
I think everyone thought that was going to be the moment that it goes to 2-2 and then everyone's up on the feet and it gets really exciting again. I think at this level the margins are so fine and so small that there's a perfect example of a great bit of goalkeeping and us just being half a yard short from equalising.
Ollie, obviously third season in a Wrexham shirt. From an individual point of view, started the first 3 games of Championship season. How are you feeling going into this season?
Yeah, I feel really strong. Benefited from having a full pre-season, which I didn't have the season before, and I didn't have the season before that because I was signed on the eve of the season. So I feel really good. I feel like I can kind of go back to back and churn out games that I didn't really feel I was at that level last year, maybe towards the end, but definitely not at the start. Feeling good in myself, so I guess that's a small positive to take personally.
And just finally, Ollie, in terms of integrating the new players into the squad, we've seen many new faces last year, a fair few less this time, but still a number to try and work with. What will be some of the things you'll do in training as one of the more experienced players who's been here a while to actually get them integrated into the group quickly and to get some of those combinations really moving in the way you want to?
Yeah, I think Mark will testify that the strongest thing about Wrexham over the last few years is the camaraderie and the togetherness in the change room. So I think that's really important. Obviously, we brought Issa back this week and signed Jacques as well, and he only trained once with the team this week, so I thought he did well tonight. And there's a lot more to come from him. I think it can sometimes be a difficult club to adapt to, just because I think there's a lot of expectation, there's a lot of eyes on the club. But it's something you've got to take on the chin. I think all the lads that have come this summer have taken well, but I still think there's a lot more to come from the group especially.
Perfect. Ollie, thanks so much for coming out tonight to see us. Really appreciate having you on Matchday Live as
Cheers.
ever.
No worries,
thank you very much. Wrexham midfielder Ollie Rathbone giving his thoughts after tonight's defeat for Wrexham 2-1 against Birmingham City. And of course, just before we had the chance to catch up with Ollie, we heard from Phil, who'd been catching up pitch side with Will. And one of the aspects of the Phil interview there, Mia, clearly he was talking about a lack of belief and a lack of conviction, which don't tend to be words we hear that often about this Wrexham side. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, can't help but sort of agree, particularly with the conviction one. Belief one, maybe a little bit less so, just in terms of, I think that was more, not to pick out, but maybe more from individual point of view. Listen, I think Birmingham, like we've said, not just tactically set out a plan and absolutely perfected it, but also on dead balls. They scored fairly early, but straight away they're slowing everything down. They're frustrating not only the players on the pitch, but the fans in the seats as well. And that's a real good game plan. If you come in here, it's not easy for anyone to come in. I know we've only obviously only played here on Saturday so far, but we've got such a good home record. It's not easy to come here and get a result. That's one of the things you have to do when you come to the racecourse. And as much as it frustrates me to say, they did that to an absolute class tonight. And listen, I think you could sort of see that in some of our play, particularly in that first half. I thought there were a few passes that had a bit of extra venom on them, and some that strayed out of play. And there was a lot of frustration in that Wrexham. You could see it was almost pent up. That we saw a few moments with Callum Doyle, Jay Stansfield, a few tackles maybe a bit late or whatever, and I think Birmingham have just got on the right side of sort of everything tonight, and they absolutely deserve those 3 points. But I can absolutely see why Phil is so frustrated, because he knows his side's better than that. He knows in moments like that they can rise above that. We've seen them do that so many times before, and not let that get to them. So a lot of frustration. But listen, now Millwall midweek, it's a quick turnaround. They've got to be ready for that.
Yeah, very, very tough one, both in terms of venue and the quality that Millwall have got. Mark, from a player's perspective, if Phil says we lacked belief and conviction, if you took that as an individual player, what would be the kind of manifestation of what Phil didn't see from a certain player that would make him think that was a lack of belief or that was a lack of conviction?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that every player would look at themselves personally tonight when they go home. They'll go, did I lack belief? What did I do to make an impact on the game? And I think that's one of the biggest things that everyone will take away tonight is self-reflection. Is did they do enough, or were they waiting for someone else in the team to make something happen? I think that probably was the case tonight, that everyone was waiting for something to happen. It just wasn't quite happening. And that was all because Birmingham's game plan. It was they stuck to their game plan and it worked. They did a number on us. And it was frustrating. I think the players were getting frustrated. The tactics of Birmingham, of, like Mia said, slowing the game down and getting into the referee's ear, buying fouls. I think everything just led to a Wrexham performance being utterly frustrated.
Birmingham City then picking up the 3 points. Let's have a look at where it leaves us in terms of the Championship table. The majority of the matches, of course, this weekend, as ever, played tomorrow, so Wrexham missed the chance on driving themselves up the positions with the Friday night fixture. Birmingham, though, will take that opportunity. There's the bottom of the table. Southampton still with that points deduction, sitting bottom of the pile. They've got James Ward-Prowse back into their numbers today, signed back from West Ham United. They sit bottom of the table. Wrexham sitting there in 15th, and quite a high chance, almost inevitable, that they will drop down further once the weekend's fixtures play through. Let's have a look at the top half, and as Mia was mentioning, Millwall, a tough gig in normal circumstances, but 2 from 2 under Alex Neil so far this season. That is going to be a really tough one for Wrexham in midweek. That's Wednesday night. Wrexham make the trip to Millwall, then they head to Swansea City. It doesn't get any easier for a Welsh derby next Saturday. We are then back here the following Tuesday, the 8th, for the visit of Burnley. Always difficult, isn't it, early season, to get a sense of perspective, Mia? Because if you go through a normal season of 46 matches and you pick out 3 in a row, how representative is that of the whole season? There's still a huge amount of football to be played. The transfer window doesn't even shut until 11 o'clock on Tuesday night, so a high chance you'd think that Wrexham might add another body, maybe another couple, before they head to Millwall. But inevitably, early in the season, people do quite easily jump to a point of view that says, well, let's play 3 matches now. We've scored 1, 1 and 1. We're not scoring enough goals. We're not attacking enough. Haven't got enough strikers. How easy is it to make a wrong assumption, or do you think there are perhaps trends that are emerging now that have some, if you like, statistical validity, that actually there's something behind them?
Yeah, well, I think in all three of the games we've said our quality in the final third hasn't been good enough. That's fact. You can see that in the fact we've only scored 3 goals in the Championship in 3 games, and I'm sure that's something they're working on. Maybe a little bit more busy on the phone tonight than they would have hoped for if we would have scored more than one. And obviously, like you say, the transfer window shuts on Tuesday night. So hopefully, like you say, a few more bodies can come through the door. But yeah, I don't think there's any need for too much panic. I think we know we've got quality in this squad. We saw that last season. That doesn't just change because you don't win one game in your opening 3. I think the frustration comes from the fact that we know that we're better than what we've seen so far in terms of results. I think we've seen moments in performances. I think obviously the Cardiff opener, how that ended and how that went in the end, that's always going to drag sort of into the next few, I think, not just because it's that Welsh rivalry, but last minute equaliser. We had so many chances in that game that just hangs around. That's like a bad smell for a little bit until maybe you get that win and then you push it to one side. So I think that's sort of one of the worst starts we could have had in terms of it felt like a loss, and we said that straight away when we played Watford on Saturday. But now we've got an opportunity. Listen, we went to the Den last year, we won. That feels like an absolute lifetime ago, by the way. Thinking about James McLean crossing it into Lewis O'Brien for the second, but tough place to go, and then obviously Swansea.com as well. And I think tonight was the one people were looking at going, well, if we get 3 points tonight, then it takes a bit of the edge off going to those aways before we're back for Burnley. But listen, this is the Championship. There's absolutely no sort of ones you write off immediately. It's such a competitive league. We've seen that already in the opening 2 weeks, never mind obviously the weekend that's about to unfold as well.
Mark, just finally before we wrap, the challenge I guess Phil will have now is where does he put his focus in the time that he's got between tonight and going down to Millwall, because he's got defensive frailties that clearly he's not happy about from the interview we saw post-match, but he's also got a team that are struggling to create. So how does he best use his time on the training ground?
He'll be able to manage that better than anyone. He'll be looking at new players' incomings and outgoings as well, by the way. But yeah, it'll be first and foremost, it'll be on the training pitch. It'll be set pieces, getting used to working together, defending the box together, finding out who your leaders are, who's going to pick you out a header that's going to not concede a goal. Sometimes it might just take Kiefer Moore just going, I'm going to go and be dominant and try and win every header that we're so used to seeing. It could be just come from Patterson. It could be the goalie that just goes, I like doing it this way and this might change, and then I get a bit more freedom to come and help the players. I think it will be a lot of reflection, like I said, between the players, but Phil's got a lot of work to do with this team. They're not far away, by the way. They've conceded a few goals from set pieces, and like Mia said, the Cardiff goal would have felt like a loss to those players. So then it's, where do you go next? Then you get a draw, and then you think, right, 2 draws, we now have to back that up with a win. They've lost tonight by a team that's done a job on them. It's frustrating. That's this league, though, and that's last year pays testament to a bad start but finishing well. Wrexham only need to pick up a few more points in this month, or in the month of August, September, to have a better start than they did last year, so they can be encouraged from the way they finished last year, even though they started similarly.
Mark, thank you very much. It's been lovely to have you back on Matchday Live for the last 2 editions. We wish you well in moving your gloves onto your next club in the coming few days and weeks. We'll keep a close eye out on the media, but we hope you pop back and see us again in Matchday Live this season. So have a good season, and hopefully, Mark, we'll see you soon. Mia, we'll see you very soon for Burnley. You'll be heading to Millwall, of course, on Wednesday. No one likes them. They don't care, but you're used to all that, aren't you?
Absolutely. Stone Island will be on, I think.
Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Mia, we look forward to seeing you for Burnley on the 8th. So the wait goes on for Wrexham. 5 matches since Wrexham's return to the EFL against Birmingham City, and yet to record a win. You have to go back 47 years for that. In terms of a victory here at the racecourse ground. And tonight, well, the man to annoy them, that was Philip Neumann. Zweimal in der Nacht. Auf Wiedersehen, said Birmingham. And we said, good night, Diolch am Willio, and we'll see you for Burnley on the 8th. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.